This is my review of the Phil Ochs album, I Ain't Marching Anymore. It was released in 1965 and produced by Jack Holzman and Paul Rothschild. So this was the first Phil album that I got after listening to a couple of his songs off the Gunfight at Carnegie Hall album. I was like, yeah, I really like this guy's music, so I'm going to start buying some of his albums. I don't specifically remember why I bought this one first. It might have been because I was into the title track already. Or it might have been just that it was the easiest one to find. I've always had kind of a difficult time finding his albums on CDs. I still don't have many of them on CDs really, or well, I guess I got quite a few, but I don't have all of them. I have this on CD, I just didn't bother getting it out because it kind of looks the same. This vinyl copy I got a couple years ago. It was actually like in the lot that I bought the first album in, along with a copy of Pleasures of the Harbor and Greatest Hits. So this album, I liked it a lot when I first got it. I still do like it a lot. It's not one of the ones I listen to more often anymore because I listen to like his later stuff more than I do the early stuff. This album is just him and his guitar. He doesn't have a second guitarist on it. I don't really even think there's any other instruments on it that I can remember. So it does get a little like samey sounding. That said, I do generally like the style of it, so I don't get too bored. But that is kind of, I guess, one of the reasons why I go back to it a little bit less, is it's all kind of just the acoustic and vocals style, and I like more instruments usually when I listen to an album. Title track, I Ain't Marching Anymore. I kind of told this story in the first, my review of the first album, so I'm not going to go into it too much here. But that was the first Phil song I ever heard. And the first version I ever heard was the one off the live album, Gunfight at Carnegie Hall. So that's always kind of been my favorite version of I Ain't Marching Anymore. I do like this version though. I think it's just a great song. Probably my favorite on the album, one of my favorite Phil songs overall. I love the guitar intro on it, his vocal's great. All the lyrics to the song, I think it's very got a very important kind of message that's still relevant today. So this probably my favorite track on the album. I think there's a few that kind of come close to it, but just kind of one of my favorite Phil songs in general, especially since it's the first song by him that I ever heard. The second track, In the Heat of the Summer. This is about the Harlem riots in the 60s. I don't know a whole lot about that historically. But I do like the song. It's got some very thought-provoking lyrics. I think Phil gives a good vocal. It's got this kind of like minor-y, sinister sounding guitar part. So that one is probably kind of a minor highlight for me. It's not really one of my favorite tracks on here, but it's not one that I ever skip. The third track, Draft Dodger Rag. This one musically is like a song. It's not my favorite song on here, but I do find it pretty entertaining. I like the lyrics. I think it's one of his kind of funnier political songs. And I do think it's one that kind of is still pretty relevant today. I think that there's a lot of people who would like support wars in this country or want to get into that kind of thing that then wouldn't actually go do it themselves. So I think it's still a pretty relevant song. The fourth track, That's What I Want to Hear. This one I think is one of his more like Union songs. He has like a couple Union songs on this album, and I can't claim to know a whole lot about that kind of stuff. I've never had a job where that was a thing. And so I don't really have any like strong opinions on that part of the song, but I do kind of like this song in general. Not one of my favorites, but it's catchy. I think he gives a good vocal on it, good performance. So I enjoy that one. The track that was The President is about about John F. Kennedy and his assassination. So it's a very like moving song. If you ever had like any thoughts on that, I guess. I guess I won't go too much into my thoughts on Kennedy, but when I was in college and doing the whole history major thing, I had kind of a Kennedy phase where I was into his like presidency and looking into that time. Interesting time. I think he did some good things, he did some bad things. Kind of a, I guess, mixed legacy, but definitely his assassination was terrible, and so it's a very like moving song from that aspect, and I think it's a really good performance from Phil. Just a good song. So that to me is a pretty big highlight. The 6-track Iron Lady. This one is about execution. I think it's about the electric chair specifically. Not one of my favorite tracks song wise, but I do think that it says some relevant things not only about execution but just about our kind of justice system in general, which I personally feel doesn't work at all. But yeah, I'm not going to go too much into these political things. Like I said, I kind of these songs give me a little bordering on going into rants, and I could try to dial it back to just my opinions on the music because I don't want to alienate absolutely everyone. But yeah, that one I kind of not one of my favorite tracks, but I do enjoy it. But it's not one that I go back to a lot. The 7th track, The Highwayman. This one is a poem from Alfred Noah. I have no idea how to say his last name, so I'm sorry about that. But it's a poem that Phil set to music. This to me is another major highlight. One of my favorite songs on the album. It is kind of long, but I don't know. I think it's really catchy. Just kind of sets this atmosphere. I just love this song. So yeah, Highwayman, definite highlight for me. The 8th track, Links in the Chain. This is another one of his union songs. I believe it's about the union bosses like not including African Americans in the unions and then thereby weakening the unions. It's a pretty good song, pretty catchy, not really one of my favorites on here. The 9th track, The Hills of West Virginia. This one, another one that I like a lot. It's a kind of slow song, so I can see it kind of boring some people, but I just think it's really catchy. Just got this kind of beauty to it. So Hills of West Virginia, the highlight for me. 10th track on here, The Man Behind the Guns, is another poem. This one was written by John Bruni, I believe. The handwriting's terrible. Yeah, this one's another one that I've always liked quite a bit. I think it's pretty catchy. I don't know, I've always liked like old ships and like naval stuff, so that just kind of I like songs about that kind of stuff. So yeah, that one was always kind of a minor highlight for me. The 11th track, Talking Birmingham Jam. This one, not one of my favorites. Like I said on the reviews of the first album, I'm really just not a big fan of the whole talking blues song style. Just not my favorite kind of thing. Not something that I really like put on a whole lot. Pretty much all of his talking blues songs, or all of anybody's ones, like they're not something that I'm going to play when like I'm in the car or something. They're something I'm only going to listen to when I'm listening to the album as a whole. So not my favorite, not bad. I think it does have some good lyrics. I'm just not into the whole talking blues song type thing. The 12th track, Ballad of the Carpenter, is a cover by Ewan McCall. I probably said that wrong as well. This is probably my least favorite track on the album. I just think it's kind of a boring song. I don't know, it just doesn't really like, the melody just doesn't catch my ear, and it just kind of goes on. I think the song's only like 3 minutes, but it seems like it's like 7. So this is pretty easily my least favorite track on here. If it wasn't for this, it'd probably be the talking blues song, because yeah, I just don't like talking blues. 13th track, Days of Decision. Another highlight, just a great song. I think it's still very relevant. So yeah, that one, another one of my favorites on here. I really like everything about that song. And then the 14th and final track, Here's to the State of Mississippi. Yeah, this one you're not going to like if you're from Mississippi, I don't think, unless you don't like the state. Yeah, it's kind of a long song, a little repetitive. I've always found it really catchy. I like his performance in it. It's got a lot of lyrics that I like. I know he would change it later to like Here's to the State of Richard Nixon and things like that, which I think is cool. So that one for me, that one is kind of a highlight. That one kind of ends on a highlight. Like I said, it's a song that I could see if you're from Mississippi, you're not gonna like that song. Phil Ochs, I Ain't Marching Anymore. It's a solid second album for him. I like that he plays all the guitar on it because I think that the two guitar thing kind of sounded a little weird on the first album. I think his vocals on this album are kind of more confident. He's definitely like growing as a musician. I think he kind of takes his folk acoustic phase kind of to its like final level on the next album. This album I probably wouldn't start here if I was getting into Phil's stuff, because I think that with just him and an acoustic guitar, it's a little bit repetitive. And even if you were going to get into like his acoustic kind of folk stage, I think that the best album to do it with is probably the next album. That said, this is a very good album. I do recommend this album, but I don't think it's going to be for everybody, just because of how political he is and because of the style of album that it is. But a very good album if you're into the whole acoustic folk thing.